We were at my buddy's engagement party. I stepped outside to take a call, came back, and overheard my girlfriend with her rich coworkers. If he proposed, would you say yes? Someone asked. She laughed. Ew! No! He's obviously just a phase, a detour. The man drives a 10-year-old Jeep and coaches troubled kids. My dad would lose it if I brought home someone like that. I had a ring in my pocket. Didn't say a word, just walked out. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Hi Reddit. This is just a broke youth coach who found out his rich GF thought he was just a phase. Shit got wild. Let me break it down. So 32 male coaches, basketball for troubled kids at the local community center. The pay isn't great, but it keeps the lights on, and I get to make a difference in these kids' lives. Been doing it for years now, and I love what I do. Most of them remind me of myself at that age. No direction, barely any support, just trying to make it to tomorrow. One of the kids I coached back when I first started, he made it all the way to the NBA. We still keep in touch. Every now and then he'll text me something like, "Couldn't have done it without you, coach." Stuff like that keeps you going when the pay doesn't. Now my backstory isn't exactly heartwarming. Dad checked out when I was 7. Mom fell into some bad shit, and I bounced around foster homes until I was 18. Spent almost a year living in my beat-up Ford F-150 after that, the one I busted my ass for working at an auto garage through high school. That truck was a total POS, but I paid for it myself, so it meant something. Then, there's my girlfriend Camille, 29 female. We'd been together for 2 years. Met at some charity basketball thing where her daddy's law firm was throwing money around. She works there too, though everyone knows Sterling, her dad, handed her the job. Girl's never known what it's like to check her bank account before buying something. "You're like this rough diamond I found," she told me once. So authentic and real. Like I was some exhibit at a museum of regular people or something. But damn, I fell hard anyway. The way she'd light up when I picked her up. How she'd actually listen to my stories about the kids I coach. How she'd curl up next to me at night. For once, I felt like maybe I belonged somewhere. "You're too nice to her," my assistant coach and best friend Danny would tell me. That princess has never worked for anything in her life. Now that girl Danny, 31 female, has been my ride or die for about a decade. We met in community college, both hustling on scholarships. She's basically my sister. Calls me on my BS. Has my back no matter what. Also, she's the funniest person I know. Drops these savage comebacks that make even the moodiest teenagers laugh during practice. "Just because she wears $1,000 shoes doesn't mean she's better than you," Danny would say. "Remember, you're the catch here, not her." I'd laugh it off, but deep down, I knew she was right. Still, the past 6 months, I'd been saving up for a ring. Although Camille was used to way better, but at least it was honest. 3 months' salary, just like they say you should do. Kept it hidden in my sock drawer, waiting for the right moment. Camille had been dropping hints about our future. Pictures of houses in neighborhoods I could never afford. Comments about her biological clock. Questions about what our kids might look like. "You think I'd be a good dad?" I asked her one night. "The best," she said. "You're so good with all those kids you coach. Our kids would be lucky. Our kids." That phrase rattled around in my head for days. I started planning to pop the question at my buddy Jet's engagement party. Thought it would be cool. Celebrate 2 couples starting their futures together. Yeah, about that. Jet's engagement party was at this fancy rooftop bar downtown, the kind of place where they don't even put prices on the menu, because if you have to ask, you can't afford it. His fiancée comes from serious money. The place was packed with people who summer and winter in places as verbs. I felt like a complete fraud in my one decent suit, the same one I wear to funerals and job interviews. But Camille was totally in her element, floating around, laughing that fake laugh you hear in movies. "Man, you look like you're having about as much fun as a cat in a bathtub," said Danny, appearing beside me in a simple black dress. She was there with her girlfriend, who was networking somewhere. "Need a rescue?" Danny asked. "Nah, I'm good. Just people watching." I touched the small box in my pocket. "Think tonight's the night." Danny's eyes got huge. "You're serious? Tonight?" "Jet's cool with it. Said he'd let me borrow the mic after the toast." "Well, shit," Danny exhaled. "You sure about this?" "There's no return policy on proposals." Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. One of my kids from the center having a breakdown at home. His dad had fallen off the wagon again. "I gotta step out and take this," I told Danny. "Cover for me?" "Always do, boss." The call took longer than I expected. About 20 minutes of talking the kid down, promising I'd pick him up for practice tomorrow so he could escape for a few hours. When I headed back inside, I cut through the quieter section of the venue to avoid small talk with people I didn't know. That's when I heard Camille's laugh. She was in a small lounge area with a group of her coworkers from Daddy's firm. "So when's Loverboy popping the question?" one of the guys asked. "You've been with him, what, 2 years now?" There was a pause. I stopped just around the corner, out of sight. God, can you imagine? Camille's voice dropped to that stage whisper people use when they're saying something they shouldn't. "Me? Married to Wes? Please?" My stomach felt like it hit the floor. "But you guys seem good together," a female voice said. "He's cute in that rugged way." "Oh, he's just a phase, Melissa. A detour. Like when you decided to go vegan for 3 months." Laughter all around. "Don't get me wrong, he's sweet. Great in bed. And all that stuff about growing up in foster care and living in his truck? It makes for such good stories at dinner parties. People eat that shit up. Look at me. Dating outside my social circle. So progressive." The ring box felt like it was burning a hole in my pocket. "But marriage material? Come on." Her voice shifted to something colder, more calculating. "The man's a basketball coach for troubled kids. He drives a 10-year-old Jeep. He shops at outlets. What would we even talk about at charity galas? How he taught some project kid how to dribble today." More laughter. My hands were shaking. It was like watching the last bit of something precious slip through your fingers. My dad would absolutely lose it if I brought Wes home as fiancé material. Can you imagine the prenup discussions? "So, Mr. Reed, what assets are you bringing to this marriage?" "Your collection of hoodies and basketball sneakers." The group erupted in laughter. I just stood there, perfectly still, listening to them tear apart every aspect of my life like it was all some big joke. "So what's your end game here?" someone asked. "I don't know," Camille sighed. "It's been fun. Different. But I'm 29. Time to get serious, you know? There's that new senior partner, Michael. Divorced, no kids, summer house in Martha's Vineyard. Dad's been pushing me to have drinks with him." That was it. I'd heard enough. I walked straight out of the party. Didn't say goodbye to anyone. Didn't look for Danny. Just left. The ring box heavy in my pocket. Outside, I texted Danny. Something came up with one of the kids. Had to go. Tell Jet sorry. Then I blocked Camille's number, drove home, and sat in the dark of my apartment for a long time. For 3 days, I completely disappeared. Shut off my social media, told the center I needed personal time, and just disconnected from everything. The only person I talked to was Danny, who showed up at my door with a pizza the morning after the party. "What happened?" she asked, pushing past me into the apartment. "You look like absolute garbage." I told her everything. She listened without interrupting, which, if you know Danny, is like seeing Bigfoot riding a unicorn. "That freaking snake," was all she said when I finished. Then she grabbed her phone. "I'm calling her right now." I took the phone from her hand. "Number, I'm done. Just done." "What do you mean done?" she asked. "I mean I'm not engaging, not fighting, not explaining, not giving her the satisfaction of seeing me hurt. I'm just gone." Danny looked at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Ghost protocol. I respect it. By day 4, my phone was blowing up with texts and calls from numbers I didn't recognize. Camille trying to reach me after realizing I'd blocked her. She even emailed my work account. "Wes, please talk to me. Why did you leave the party? Why aren't you answering my calls? This isn't like you." I deleted them all without responding. On day 5, she showed up at my apartment. I watched through the peephole as she knocked, called my name, eventually sat down in the hallway crying. I turned up the TV and let her sit there until she left 2 hours later. Danny thought it was hilarious. Ice cold, Reed. Ice cold. But the thing is, not trying to be cold, just don't have anything to say to her. I said to Danny, "Hey, I'm Team Wes all the way." She showed her true colors. Duck her and the designer horse she rode in on. I mean, the way Danny said it, you could tell she'd been holding those exact words back for 2 years, just waiting for the moment when she could finally let loose without me defending Camille. There was this look of pure satisfaction on her face, like she'd been dying to say that to my face since day 1. But I'm never bothered by Danny. I was just starting to feel like maybe I could move on from this whole mess when, on day 7, I came home from grabbing groceries to find something pinned to my door. An ultrasound picture with a note. "We need to talk. I'm 8 weeks along. Please call me. C." For a moment, I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. A baby? Was this for real? I stood there in the hallway, grocery bags cutting into my fingers, staring at that grainy black and white image. Then I did the math. 8 weeks would put conception around the end of March. But Camille had been in DC for a conference that entire week. I remembered because I'd driven her to the airport myself. I took the ultrasound and note down, went inside, and finally called her. Thank God, she answered immediately. Wes, I've been so worried. The ultrasound? Is it real? Of course it's real. I wouldn't lie about something like that. I'm pregnant, Wes. We're going to have a baby. When exactly did this happen? Because according to this, you got pregnant when you were in DC for that conference in March? She didn't say anything for a solid second. That's just an estimate. The doctor said it could be 6 to 10 weeks. Right. My voice was weirdly calm. Well, regardless, it's none of my business. What do you mean it's none of your business? If I'm pregnant, it's very much your business. See, that's the thing. You made it pretty clear at Jet's party that I'm just a phase, not marriage material. What were your exact words? A detour? So whatever's going on with you now, that's your problem, not mine. More silence, then a choked sob. You heard that? Oh my God, Wes, I didn't mean any of it. I was just trying to fit in with those people. You know how they are. No, Camille, I don't know how those people are. I'm just a basketball coach for troubled kids, remember? What would I know about your world? Please, can we talk in person? I have something to show you. Something that will prove how I really feel about you. I could have just hung up on her. But part of me needed closure. Needed to understand how someone could fake feelings for that long. Plus, I figured I should probably get the whole pregnancy situation figured out face to face, even though the timing made no sense. So, against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop the next day. Neutral territory where I could walk away easily if things went south. I told myself I was just going to confirm what I already knew, that whatever we had was built on lies, and then I could move on for good. Camille was already there when I arrived, looking nothing like herself. Hair pulled back messily, minimal makeup, wearing jeans and a sweater instead of her usual designer stuff. Thank you for coming, she said, pushing a mug toward me. I got you black coffee. 2 sugars? I didn't touch it. You said you had something to show me. She reached into her bag and pulled out a leather-bound journal. I've been keeping this for the past year. I want you to read some of the entries. She opened it to a bookmarked page and slid it across the table. The handwriting was neat, feminine. April 16th. Wes and I watched some movie with a cute family scene tonight. He mentioned how he'd want to coach his own kid someday. The way he talked about it wasn't if, but when. I've always told everyone kids would derail my career path, but tonight I caught myself imagining a little boy with Wes's laugh learning to dribble, or a stubborn little girl with his patience. For the first time ever, the idea of being someone's mom doesn't terrify me. What is this man doing to me? Dad would lose his mind if he knew I was daydreaming about baby names instead of making partner by 35. I flipped through more pages. Entries about our dates, my work with the kids, plans for trips we might take, a future house. All written in the same handwriting. All painted a picture of someone deeply in love. I have never shown this to anyone, Camille said quietly. Not my friends, not my therapist. This is the real me, Wes. Not what you heard at that party. I closed the journal and pushed it back toward her. Why would you say those things if you didn't mean them? Because I'm a coward, her voice cracked. Because I've spent my whole life trying to be what my father wants me to be. Because those people at the firm, their approval still matters to me even though I hate myself for it. She wiped a tear. What you heard was the old me. The me I'm trying not to be anymore. The journal is the real me. I sat back in my chair, studying her face. Something felt off. And the ultrasound? It's real, she said quickly. I'm pregnant, Wes. We're going to have a baby. But the timing, the doctor must have gotten the dates wrong. You know how these things go. I didn't, actually, but I nodded anyway. I need time to process all this, I said finally. Of course, she reached for my hand. I pulled back subtly. She pretended not to notice. Take all the time you need. Just don't shut me out completely, okay? There's a baby to think about now. That night, I called Jet. I hadn't talked to him since his engagement party. Dude, where did you disappear to? Danny said something about one of your kids having an emergency? I told him, yeah, something like that. Hey, random question. After I left, did Camille say anything about me? There was an awkward pause. Look, man, she was pretty wasted. Just tell me. She kept making these weird jokes about you to her work friends. Like, imitating the way you talk, making fun of your job. It was not cool. Jet's girl almost said something to her, but we figured it would just make a scene. My grip tightened on the phone. Anything else? She was hanging all over some guy in an expensive suit later. I think he works at her dad's firm. They left together, which surprised everyone since you had just vanished. I thanked him and hung up. Now hear me out. Things weren't making freaking sense to me. Why would she be writing in her journal about me and her having kids while she's clearly not planning anything with me, apart from the disrespect and talking trash behind my back? Something about that journal was bugging me. Even the way she had presented it felt too convenient, too perfect. So I called Danny. Hey, need to pick your brain about something, I said when she answered. Shoot. So I met with Camille today. She showed me this journal she claims she's been keeping for the past year, full of entries about how much she loves me, how she wants a future together, all that stuff. A journal, Danny repeated flatly. Seriously? Yeah. Leather-bound thing she supposedly writes her deepest thoughts in. Did you ever see her with something like that at the party? Or has she ever mentioned keeping a journal to you? There was a long pause on the other end. Look, I'm about to break some serious girl code here, Danny finally said. But you deserve the truth. In all the times we've hung out, even when you weren't around, Camille has never once mentioned keeping a journal. And I've been in her bag plenty of times when she needed me to grab her phone or whatever. No journal. You think she could be lying about it? Danny snorted. Wes, I could make a fake journal like that in 2 days flat. Buy a nice book, age it a little, write a bunch of entries with different pens, smudge some mascara on a page to look like she cried while writing. It's not exactly rocket science. She's panicking about being a single mom. That's why she's doing all this. Shit, I muttered. What did the entries say exactly? I told her about the stuff with kids, our future together, how different it was from what she'd said at the party. Yeah, that's total BS, Danny said firmly. The night of the party, after you left, she was telling everyone how she wasn't ready to settle down with someone like you. Her exact words. Said she needed someone more established for the next phase of her life. My grip tightened on the phone. You sure? Positive. I wouldn't lie to you about this, even if it hurts. That's the difference between me and her. Danny's voice softened. I'm sorry, Wes, but she's playing you with this journal crap, and probably with the pregnancy thing too. She bluntly disrespected you. No journal can erase this fact. Before I could respond, there was a knock at my door. A hard, authoritative knock. When I opened it, Camille's father stood there in an expensive suit. Behind him were 2 other men in similar attire. Wesley, Sterling said, his voice colder than a February morning. We need to talk. I've always believed you can tell a lot about a man by how he enters another man's space. Sterling didn't wait for an invitation, just strode right in like he owned the place, his 2 lawyer buddies following behind. Nice apartment, he said, looking around my modest living room with barely concealed disgust. Cozy. I didn't offer them seats. Didn't offer them anything. Let's skip the small talk, I said. What do you want? Sterling straightened his tie, a nervous tick I'd noticed whenever he was about to deliver what he thought was a power move. I learned that my daughter is pregnant with your child. I'm here to discuss how we're going to handle this situation. Situation, I repeated, leaning against the wall, arms crossed. That's an interesting way to describe your grandchild. One of the lawyer buddies, a ferret-faced man with thinning hair, stepped forward. Mr. Parker is simply concerned about the welfare of both his daughter and the unborn child. Given your financial circumstances, we thought it prudent to formalize support arrangements. The other one chimed in. We've taken the liberty of drafting some preliminary paperwork. Child support, visitation schedule, that sort of thing. I almost laughed. And if I don't sign? Then things could get rather uncomfortable for you, Sterling said, his voice dropping lower. Custody battles are expensive. Legal fees add up quickly. Your modest coaching salary might not stretch very far. Not to mention, Ferretface added, these matters can sometimes affect employment. Background checks for those working with children are quite thorough these days. Any hint of difficulties could raise flags. The threat was pretty clear. You wouldn't want this to ruin what little you've built, Sterling said, almost sympathetically. My daughter, for reasons I cannot fathom, seems to care for you. She wants you involved in the child's life. We're simply trying to establish parameters that work for everyone. Parameters? I nodded slowly. Right. I walked to my kitchen and came back with a glass of water for myself. Didn't offer them any. Here's my parameter, I said calmly. Paternity test. Before anything else happens. Sterling's face reddened slightly. That's insulting to my daughter. No less insulting than you 3 showing up at my door with thinly veiled threats. Paternity test or no conversation. You can't seriously think Camille would… 8 weeks, I cut him off. That's what the ultrasound says. 8 weeks ago, your daughter was in DC for a law conference. I have the plane ticket receipt in my email. I drove her to the airport myself. That landed like a brick in the room. Sterling's eyes narrowed. Furthermore, I continued, I have evidence suggesting the baby might belong to someone else. A colleague of yours, actually. The door opened behind them. Danny walked in, Perfect timing as always. Oh shit, it's a lawyer convention, she said cheerfully, dropping her bag on the counter. Did I miss the free pens and notepads? This is a private conversation, Ferret Face said stiffly. No, it's really not, Danny replied, making herself comfortable on my couch. See, I'm Wes's counsel in this matter. You're an attorney? The other lawyer asked skeptically. Nope, just a random woman who doesn't like seeing good men get screwed over by rich assholes. She smiled sweetly. No offense. Sterling looked like he might have a stroke. Listen here. No, you listen, I interrupted. Here's what's going to happen. Camille will take a paternity test. If, and that's a massive if, the baby is mine, we can discuss arrangements. Until then, there's nothing to talk about. And if we refuse, Sterling challenged, then I go public with what your daughter said about me at that engagement party, plus some other interesting texts I've kept from our relationship. A bluff, but they didn't know that. I wonder how the partners at your firm would feel about Camille's colorful descriptions of people's backgrounds. Pretty discriminatory stuff. Not a great look for a law firm in this day and age. Sterling's jaw clenched. Lawyer number 2 whispered something in his ear. Fine, Sterling finally said. A paternity test, but discreetly, at our family doctor's office. Absolutely not, Danny jumped in. Independent lab, separate appointments. Unless you guys want to fabricate results too? I shot her a look, but she just shrugged unapologetically. Independent lab is fine, I agreed. Tomorrow. As they filed out, Sterling turned back. If you are the father, Wesley, make no mistake. You will do right by my daughter. After they left, Danny let out a low whistle. Man, I wish I'd recorded that. You were so calm I could practically see the ice in your veins. Just playing the long game, I said, suddenly exhausted. Always have. The paternity test came back exactly as I expected. 0% chance I was the father of Camille's baby. I was sitting on my couch when the email notification came through. Just stared at the results for a while, feeling weirdly empty rather than victorious. 2 years of my life with someone who saw me as a novelty, a phase, a stepping stone to whatever she really wanted. That day, Sterling called me. I'd like to meet, he said without any intro. His voice sounded different. Tired. Alone. No lawyers. No Camille. We met at a park downtown. Sterling looked older than I remembered, the lines in his face deeper. Camille confirmed it, he said, sitting on the bench beside me. The father is a man named Michael Peterson, junior partner at the firm. They had a liaison after your friend's engagement party. I almost laughed. Funny, I said. She called him a senior partner at the party. Guess even her lies come with a job title upgrade. I owe you an apology, Wesley, Sterling continued, surprising me. I came into your home and threatened you based on my daughter's lie. That was wrong of me. Yes, it was. In my defense, I believed her. She's my daughter. He rubbed his temples. Though at the moment, I'm finding that hard to remember. What happens now? I asked. Not because I cared about their family drama, but because I wanted closure. Michael has been asked to resign. The firm can't afford the scandal. Sterling sighed heavily. As for Camille, she'll have support, financial and otherwise. But there will be consequences for her actions. We sat in silence for a moment, watching the basketball game. You know, Sterling said finally, I never understood what she saw in you. No offense? None taken. But seeing how you've handled this situation, with dignity, with restraint, I think perhaps I was the one who misunderstood. He extended his hand. I truly am sorry for the part I played in this mess. I shook his hand briefly. Take care of your daughter, Sterling, and your grandkid. That's what matters now. And what will you do? I stood up. Move on, live my life. And I did. That was just 6 weeks ago. The fallout for Camille was swift and brutal. According to Jet, who's still tight with his girlfriend's cousin who works at the firm, Sterling didn't just ask Michael to resign, he completely cut Camille off too. Apparently, the paternity test fiasco was the last straw after years of cleaning up her messes. The firm had already been dealing with some PR issues, and Sterling couldn't risk his daughter's drama becoming public knowledge. Dude, she got evicted from her fancy downtown apartment, Jet told me over beers last weekend. Sterling froze all her accounts, took back her car, said she needed to experience consequences for once in her life. Word around town is she had to move in with her mom's sister in that rundown part of the city, the one Sterling always looked down on. Poetic justice, I guess. Her Instagram went dark right after everything went down. No more carefully filtered photos or inspirational quotes about living your truth. And that dude Michael didn't just leave town. He got blackballed from every decent law firm in the state. Sterling made sure of that. Turns out the senior partner's loyalty was to the firm, not to Camille's flavor of the month junior associate. Michael's now working some entry-level corporate gig in Omaha, sending child support checks that barely cover diapers. As for me, I didn't wait around to see how the dust settled. I took that ring money and put a down payment on a small commercial space near the community center. Danny and I opened our own youth basketball academy just 3 weeks ago. Things started moving fast after that. Remember that kid I helped a few years back? That kid who made it to the NBA? He heard about what I was doing and reached out, wanted to sponsor the academy, put his name behind it. Suddenly we had legitimate funding, equipment donations, and media attention. You know what I like about you, Reed, Danny said yesterday as we were hanging the sign above our front door. You never get mad. You get better. I've been thinking about that a lot. How sometimes the worst things that happen to us can push us in directions we never would have gone otherwise. The day after our grand opening, I treated myself to something I'd been eyeing for years. A brand new Jeep Wrangler, midnight blue. Nothing too flashy, but reliable. Mine. Paid in full, no financing. First new car I've ever owned. After years of driving beaters and worrying about breakdowns, it felt surreal to have that new car smell and a warranty. We ran into Camille last week at the grocery store. It was bound to happen eventually. Small city. She looked different. The baby was strapped to her chest in one of those carrier things. I pulled into the parking spot right next to her beat-up Honda, the kind of car she used to mock people for driving. The irony wasn't lost on me as I stepped out of my brand new Jeep. Her eyes widened slightly, taking in the vehicle, then me in my Academy-branded polo and decent jeans. She tried to talk to me, started with some sob story about how her father had abandoned her, how nobody would hire her because of her last name and the rumors, how she was struggling to make rent on her waitressing tips. I just nodded, said, "That's tough," and walked away. Not out of cruelty, but because there was nothing left to say. "Cold as ice, Reed," Danny said as we loaded groceries into my Jeep. "You didn't even flinch." "Not cold," I corrected her. "Just done." Later, as we were setting up for the next day's practice, Danny asked, "Ever think about what might have happened if you hadn't overheard her that night?" I considered it for a moment. Sometimes. But then I remember that the truth always comes out eventually. Better to know who people really are sooner rather than later. "Look at you all wise and shit," she laughed. "Next you'll be growing a beard and sitting cross-legged on a mountain." "Nah," I grinned. "Just a guy who finally figured out where he belongs." Sterling called me yesterday. Wanted to meet for coffee. Said he had a business proposition. I agreed, mostly out of curiosity. "I've been watching what you're doing with this academy," he said, looking uncomfortable in the kind of coffee shop he'd normally never set foot in. "It's impressive. Thanks. I'd like to establish a scholarship fund for underprivileged youth through your program." He slid a check across the table. The amount made my eyes widen. No strings attached. "Why?" I asked, not touching the check. "Let's just say I'm reevaluating some priorities," he replied, looking older than I remembered, and recognizing value where I previously missed it. I took the check. Not for me, but for the kids. Word got around town quickly about what happened with Camille and her dad. Not from me. I never said a word about it publicly. But gossip travels fast. Some of the parents from those same wealthy neighborhoods started sending their kids to our academy. Turns out even rich folks can appreciate someone who stands their ground with integrity. "You're becoming a legend, Reed," Danny told me yesterday. "These suburban moms are all whispering about that basketball coach who stood up to Sterling Parker." "Not trying to be a legend," I said. "Just trying to run a decent program." But the sudden attention hasn't hurt. We've already outgrown our space. Got 25 kids signed up in the first month, with more calling every day. Had to bring on another coach. Marcus, actually one of my first kids from the community center years ago. So that's where I'm at. Building something that matters. Surrounded by good people who get it. No drama, no bullshit, just honest work and real connections. Last night, I parked my new Jeep outside a small Italian restaurant where I was meeting the director of the city's youth programs to discuss a potential partnership. Through the window, I spotted Camille waiting tables, carrying plates and looking exhausted. Our eyes met briefly. I gave her a small nod. Not gloating, just acknowledging. She quickly looked away and disappeared into the kitchen. The thing is, I'm not happy about her downfall. I didn't need her to crash and burn to feel good about myself. But there's a certain symmetry to it all. How quickly our positions reversed. She's struggling to rebuild from nothing, which is something I've had to do my entire life. The difference is, I never looked down on anyone while I was doing it. Do I still think about Camille sometimes? Sure. Not with anger anymore, just a kind of distant recognition that some people come into your life to show you exactly who you don't want to be. And maybe who you really are. I heard she's trying to rebuild her life. Living in a studio apartment with the baby? Sometimes I see her walking to work, looking tired but somehow more real than she ever did in designer clothes. Part of me hopes she figures it out. Not for her sake, but for the kids. He didn't ask to be born into all this drama. I think about that ring sometimes too. The one that sat in my sock drawer for months while I saved up. The one I almost gave to the wrong person. Funny how the universe works. That money ended up being the seed that grew into the best thing that's ever happened to me. One thing's for certain. I'm done letting other people define my worth. Those kids at the academy see me for who I really am. Danny sees me. Hell, even Sterling Parker sees me now. And most importantly, I see myself clearly. Not bad for a guy who used to live in his truck. Not bad at all.